Good evening. I am Society Archer, and tonight we shall be continuing on our readings of the Poetic Edda. Once again, we are going off the Caroline Larrington translation by Oxford World's Classics. Tonight, we shall be reading the section entitled Loki's Quarrel. The forward to it. Excluded from the feast at Aegir's Hall, where all the other gods except Thor are celebrating, Loki forces his way in, compels Odin to assign him a seat, and insults each of the gods and goddesses in turn, hence the title, Loki's Quarrel. No one escapes his scorn, and it is only when Thor returns from his journeying in Giant Land and threatens Loki with his hammer Mjolnir that Loki falls silent and consents to leave. The poem is cleverly structured so that Loki has two stanzas of insult, countered by one uttered by the victim in his or her defense, the next verse uttered to support the victim or to attack Loki by another of the company, serves to draw Loki's attention to the new speaker. Insofar as we can verify the charges Loki lays against the gods and goddesses, they appear to have some foundation, though Loki speaks as if the gods were wayward human beings rather than divinities whose actions are attributes of their separateness and power. The poem may be early, and thus the composition of a poet who believes in the divinities he burlesques, a little comedy cannot hurt divinities whose cult is secure. Or it may be late, and the mockery be directed by a Christian poet against heathen divinities whose immorality contrasts with the stern morality of the new religion. The prose introduction seems to misunderstand the poem. The latter suggests that Loki was never invited to the feast and gatecrashes it, insulting Aegir's servant as he does so. Aegir, who is also called Gymir, had brewed ale for the Aesir when he got the great cauldron which has just been told about. To this feast came Odin and Frigg his wife. Thor did not come because he was away in the east. Sif was there, Thor's wife, Bragi and Idun his wife. Tyr was there, he was one-handed, for Fenrir the wolf tore his hand off when he was bound. There was Njord and his wife Skadi, Freyr and Freya, Vidar son of Odin. Loki was there, and the servants of Freyr, Brigvir and Bela. Many of the Aesir and elves were there. Aegir had two servants, Fimafing and Ildir. Shining gold was used instead of firelight. Ale went round by itself. That was a great place of peace. People praised the excellence of Aegir's servers. Loki could not bear to hear that, and he killed Fimafing. Then the Aesir shook their shields and shrieked at Loki and chased him out to the woods, and they set to drinking. Loki came back and met Eldir outside. Loki greeted him. Tell me, Eldir, before you step a single step forward, what the sons of the victory gods here inside talk about over their ale. They discuss their weapons and their readiness for war, the sons of the victory gods. Among the Aesir and elves who are within, no one has a friendly word for you. In I shall go into Aegir's halls to have a look at that feast. Quarreling and strife I'll bring to the Aesir's sons, and thus mix their mead with malice. You know, if in you go into Aegir's halls to have a look at that feast, if accusation and scandal you pour over the loyal gods, they'll wipe it off on you. You know, Eldir, that if you and I should contend with wounding words, I'll be rich in my replies when you say too much. Afterwards Loki went into the hall, and when those inside saw who had come in, they all fell silent. Thirsty I come to this hall, Loki come a long way, to ask the Aesir that they should give me one drink of magnificent mead. Why are you so silent, you pride-swollen gods, that you are unable to speak? Assign me a place to sit at the feast, or tell me to go away. Bragi said, a place to sit at the feast the Aesir will never assign you, for the Aesir know for whom they should provide their potent feast. Do you remember, Odin, when in bygone days we blended our blood together? You said you'd never imbibe beer unless it was brought to both of us. Odin said, Get up then, Vidir, and let the wolf's father sit down at the feast, lest Loki speak words of blame to us in Aegir's hall. Then Vidir stood up and poured a drink for Loki, and before he drank, he toasted the Aesir. Hail to the Aesir, hail to the Asinir, and all the most sacred gods, except for that one god who sits farther in, Bragi, on the benches. Bragi said, A horse and a sword I'll give you for my possessions, and Bragi will recompense you with a ring too, so you don't repay the Aesir with hatred. Don't make the gods exasperated with you. Loki said, Both horses and arm rings you'll always be short of, Bragi. Of the Aesir and the elves who are in here, you're the wariest of war and shyest of shooting. Bragi said, I know if I were outside, just as now I am inside Aegir's hall, your head I'd be holding in my hand. I'd see that as reward for your lies. You're brave in your seat, but you won't be doing that, Bragi the bench ornament. You go and fight if you are so furious. The truly bold man doesn't think twice. Idun said, I beg you, Bragi, that kin ties will hold between the children and those who are adopted, so you shouldn't speak words of blame to Loki in Aegir's hall. Be silent, Idun. I declare that of all women, you're the most man-mad, since you wound your arms washed bright around your brother's killer. Idun said, I am not speaking words of blame to Loki in Aegir's hall. I am quietening Bragi, made talkative with beer. I don't want you two angry men to fight. Gefjon said, Why should you two Aesir in here fight with wounding words? Isn't it known of Loki that he likes a joke, and all the gods love him? Loki said, Be silent, Gefjon. I am going to mention this, how your spirit was seduced. The white boy gave you a jewel, and you laid your thigh over him. Odin said, Mad you are, Loki, and out of your wits, when you make Gefjon angry with you. For I think she knows all the fate of the world, as clearly as I myself. Be silent, Odin. You could never apportion war fortune among men. Often you've given what you shouldn't have given, victory to the faint-hearted. Odin said, You know if I gave what I shouldn't have given, victory to the faint-hearted. Yet 8 winters you were beneath the earth, a milch cow and a woman. And there you bore children, and that I thought the hallmark of a pervert. But you, they say, practice Sade on Samsi, and you beat on the drum as Cirrus do. In the likeness of a wizard you journeyed over mankind, and that I thought the hallmark of a pervert. Frigg said, The fates you met should never be told in front of people. What you two Aesir underwent in past times, the living should keep their distance from ancient matters. Loki said, Be silent, Frigg. You're Fyrgon's daughter, and you've always been man-mad. V and Vili, Vidrir's wife, you took them both in your embrace. Frigg said, You know that if I had in here in Aegir's hall a boy like my son Balder, you wouldn't get away from the Aesir's sons. They'd be furious fighting against you. Loki said, Frigg, you want me to say more about my wicked deeds, for I brought it about that you will never again see Balder ride to the halls. Freya said, Mad are you, Loki, when you reckon up your ugly, hateful deeds. Frigg knows, I think, all fate, though she herself does not speak out. Be silent, Freya. I know all about you. You aren't free of faults. Of the Aesir and the elves who are in here, each one has been your lover. Freya said, False is your tongue. I think that soon it will chant out disaster for you. The Aesir are furious with you, and the Asinir you'll go home discomfited. Be silent, Freya, you're a witch, and much imbued with malice. You are with your brother, all the cheerful gods surprised you, and then, Freya, you farted. Njord said, That's harmless if a woman has a husband, or a lover, or one of each. What's surprising is that a pervert god comes here, and he has borne children. Be silent, Njord, you were sent from here, eastwards as hostage to the gods. The daughters of Hymir used you as a piss pot, and pissed in your mouth. Njord said, that was my comfort when I, from far away, was sent as hostage to the gods. That I fathered that son whom no one hates, and is thought the protector of the Aesir. Stop now, Njord, keep some moderation. I won't keep it secret any longer. With your sister you got that son, though that's no worse than might be expected. Tyr said, Freyr is the best of all the bold riders in the courts of the Aesir. He makes no girl cry, nor any man's wife, and looses each man from captivity. Be silent, Tyr, you could never deal straight between two people. Your right hand, I must point out, is the one which Fenrir tore from you. Tyr said, I've lost a hand, but you've lost the famous wolf. Evil brings pain to us both. It's not pleasant for the wolf who must in shackles wait for the twilight of the gods. Be silent, Tyr. It happened that your wife had a son by me. Not an ell of cloth nor a penny have you ever had for this injury, you wretch. Freyr said, a wolf I see lying before a river mouth until the powers are torn asunder. Next you shall be bound unless you fall silent, smith of evil. With gold you had Gymir's daughter bought, and so you gave away your sword. But when Muspel's sons ride over Mirkwood, you don't know then, wretch, how you'll fight. Brigvir said, you know, if I had the lineage of Freyr, and such a blessed dwelling, smaller than Morrow I'd have ground that hateful crow, and mangled all his limbs into pieces. What's that little creature I see wagging his tail and snapping things up snappily? At Freyr's ears you're always found, and twittering under the grindstones. Brigvir said, Brigvir I'm called, and I'm said to be busy by all the gods and men. Thus I'm proud here that Odin's sons are all drinking ale together. Be silent, Brigvir, you could never share out food among men. And in the bench straw they can never find you when men are going to fight. Heimdall said, drunk you are, Loki, so that you're out of your wits. Why don't you stop speaking? For too much drinking affects every man, so he doesn't notice his talkativeness. Be silent, Heimdall, for you in bygone days a hateful life was decreed. A mucky back you must always have, and watch as guard of the gods. Skadi said, you're light-hearted, Loki, you won't for long play with your tail wagging free. For on a rock edge with your ice-cold son's guts, the gods shall bind you. You know, if on a rock edge with my ice-cold son's guts, the gods shall bind me. First and foremost, I was at the killing when we seized the Yazi. Skadi said, you know, if first and foremost you were at the killing when you seized the Yazi, from my sanctuaries and meadows, cold counsel shall always come to you. Gentler in speech you were to Laufey's son, when you had me invited to your bed. And we must mention such things when we reckon up our shameful deeds. Then Sif went forward and poured out mead for Loki into a crystal goblet and said, welcome now, Loki, and take the crystal goblet full of ancient mead. You should rather admit of the Aesir's children that Sif alone is blameless. He took the one and drunk it down. You would be the only one if you were so. Were cautious and reluctant with a man. I know one, and I think I do know, a lover besides Thor, and that was the malevolent Loki. Bela said, all the mountain range shakes. I think Thor must be on his way from home. He'll bring peace to the one who badmouths here, all the gods and men. Be silent, Bela. You're Brigvir's wife, and much imbued with malice. No worse disgrace came among the Aesir's children, you dung-splattered dairymaid. Then Thor arrived and said, "Be silent, perverse creature. My mighty hammer, Mjolnir, shall deprive you of speech. Your shoulder rock I shall strike off your neck, and then your life will be gone. The son of Earth has now come in. Why are you raging so, Thor? But you won't be daring when you must fight against the wolf when he swallows Odin all up." Thor said, "Be silent, perverse creature. My mighty hammer, Mjolnir, shall deprive you of speech. I shall throw you upon the roads to the east. Afterwards, no one will ever see you. Your eastern journeys you should never relate to people, since in the thumb of a glove you crouched cowering, you hero, and then you didn't seem like Thor." Thor said, "Be silent, perverse creature. My mighty hammer Mjolnir shall deprive you of speech. With my right hand I'll strike you with Hrungnir's killer, so that every one of your bones will break. I intend to live for a good time yet, though you threaten me with a hammer. Strong leather straps you thought Skrymir had, and you couldn't get at the food, and you starved, unharmed but hungry." Thor said, "Be silent, perverse creature. My mighty hammer, Mjolnir, shall deprive you of speech. Hrungnir's killer will send you to hell, down below the corpse gate. I spoke before the Aesir's sons what my spirit urged me. But for you alone I shall go out, for I know that you do strike. Ale you brewed, Aegir, but you'll never again prepare a feast. All your possessions that are here inside, may flame play over them, and your back be burnt." And after that, Loki hid himself in the waterfall of Frangar in the shape of a salmon. There the Aesir caught him. He was bound with the guts of his son Nari, but his son Narfi turned into a wolf. Skadi took a poisonous snake and fastened it over Loki's face. Poison dripped down from it. Sigyn, Loki's wife, sat there and held a basin under the poison. But when the basin was full, she carried the poison out, and meanwhile the poison fell on Loki. Then he writhed so violently at this that all the earth shook from it. Those are now called earthquakes. So there you go. Loki's Quarrel from the Poetic Edda. Until next time, good evening.